And whither we are going, we shall all unite in the merry morning of May. Mommy, how are you? Do you want to make the
yeah. Right, if we would ask the helpers if we need to, we can open that door. We may need to do that. We may need to pull back or bring in more chairs. So we'll take bring in a few more chairs. I think probably. You're all very welcome. Paul wrote to the Sculls Carter Larkin, the Larkin Hedge School. My function at this stage is merely to welcome all of you and to point out something which they probably didn't have to do in days of May Day processions because there was no Health and Safety Authority, and that is the exit. So I'd ask you not to block those doors and move the chairs forward rather than blocking that entrance. The exit is on in the event of a fire or emergency, straight through in the entrance you came in, or to the right. But on no account are you to use that door except in the case of an emergency, or you'll wake the General Secretary of SIP to an alarm. So you're not allowed to do that except in case of emergency.
What's he going to do in an emergency?
He's going to bring the General President. He's going to bring the Executive. Just to say to you that the format we're going to have initially the May Days, which you have just started, and we're delighted at 1:45 we have the Power of Song with Tommy Sands, and I'm delighted to welcome Tommy. Lunch tickets are available outside, and after that it's over to the Bay Crew.
Okay, you're all very welcome. It's great to see so many people here so early in the morning. I don't know if I would get up myself. This probably isn't terribly well thought through because the projector is right behind you, but don't worry because the slideshow is not totally central to the whole thing or anything. It's just to give you a flavour of a couple of things. This character here is roughly 30,000 years old. Don't know for certain. He's painted on the wall of the Fair cave in Glasgow. And he's the oldest image that we have of a character that's associated with May Day, which is Robin Goodfellow.
Bit louder, please.
Yes. Louder.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to save my voice from my singing. This is the oldest image that we have of this particular character. Now we can't say for certain, of course, that they called him Robin Goodfellow, or that this celebration was enjoined in May, or on May Day particularly, but you can have a fairly good idea because there are documented cases of this dance taking place not quite 30,000 years ago, but also I'm not going to go into the details at this hour in the morning, but you can clearly see that he's a fertility symbol. All right. These characters doing this dance that they do. It's actually a Christmas dance, but the interesting thing about this photograph is that the antlers that they're wearing there have been dated to they're 1,000 years old. But there's another dance that I couldn't get a picture of that they do in Yorkshire with similar antlers. They're made from antlers of extinct reindeer that are now extinct in Britain, and they've been dated to about 7,000 BC. So there's a kind of a continuity with this. Sorry, I'm trying to talk as loud as I can. I didn't realise there were going to be so many people.
Yes.
Will I use the microphone?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Just talk amongst yourselves for a sec. Is it on? Is it plugged into anything that's actually going to?
You ready for this?
Oh God.
Sarah.
It's on, is it? Yeah. Okay. Hello. Turn it up a bit. Yeah. Hello, hello, hello,
Yeah.
hello, hello. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. That's grand. This here is Robin Goodfellow. This is a woodcut from 1638, which would have been quite a sacrilegious image at the time. Around about this time, this was the time that Robin Goodfellow became associated with the Christian devil. You can see he has horns and he has cloven hoof. There was no concept of good and evil as the Christian church has in pagan religions. It was more to do with keeping a balance, so that if something was going wrong for you, it was because you're out of balance with nature, or you're out of balance with your own seasons, rather than because there was some evil invading your life. Maybe you were doing something at the wrong time of the year or something. And sorry, okay, not a condenser mic. Joan's going to read a poem now.
Yeah.
About this character. He's a mischievous. I'm trying to. It's hard.
Okay, this is a poem called Robin Goodfellow. It's by Thomas Percy in 1765. It gives you some indication of Mr. Goodfellow. When house or hearth doth sluttish lie, I pinch the maidens black and blue. The bedclothes from the bed pull I, and lay them naked all to view. Twixt sleep and wake I do them take, and on the key cold floor them throw. If out they cry, then forth I fly, and loudly laugh out, ho, ho, ho!
So you can see he's more of a mischievous fellow than an evil character. This here now is much more nefarious looking dude, but again, he wasn't an evil character. This is Baphomet. He's a fertility god who was known to be worshipped by the Knights Templar. He was, of course, a central character, and it's the same figure. This is Robin Goodfellow in his other aspect. He can be formidable. He can, like a lot of tricksters, he can play nasty tricks if you displease him. And just for the crack, this photo show isn't going to go on for a long time. Don't worry. This was taken last year in California. I don't know where their antlers came from or how old they are. I suppose they probably still have reindeer in California. They brought them from somewhere anyway. So we're talking about May Day. There's a long history of May Day, and there's an awful lot of tradition associated with it. You could actually do an entire weekend just on this, but so we had to condense it. Just to give you a bit of background, this is a reading from the Celtic shaman. Bealtaine, or Beltana, or Beltane, marked the beginning of the summer and was one of the major gateways between the worlds. The period from Beltane to Samhain was called An Grian Mór, the greater sun, while the period from Samhain to Beltane was An Grian Bheag, the lesser sun. Beltane was the time when the animals were let out from the byres to eat fresh grass. Herds and flocks were driven between the two fires in order to purify them of any diseases resulting from their winter incarceration. Remnants of many Celtic May customs abound in Britain and Ireland, where villagers still choose May queens and dance about maypoles. We'll have a little bit more about that in a while. The gates of the other world stood open at this time, and it was considered lucky to seek the gifts of the Sidhe, the folk of the other world, by rising early in the morning. Gifts were granted more easily to the young and beautiful, of course. Nothing changed.
More discrimination.
Beltane is a time for coming into our strength and realizing our desires. Now, the important thing about this is that there is a link between May Day and Samhain. The two it's almost always like that in pagan rites. That there's a winter solstice, there's a summer solstice, there's a May Day, and there's a Samhain, and they're both connected to each other. They're both times when the gate to the other world is not quite as solid as it usually is. Bonfires and ghosts associated with both of them. And you have the wren that we do every year at Christmas time. That's from an old tradition where the robin murdered the wren at Christmas time, and then 6 months later the wren would murder the robin. and it goes around, and they would rule for 6 months of the year. Anyway, not too much about that. This is the Fire Festival. The Fire Festival in Edinburgh, just the connection with bonfires. I was once in Edinburgh up at the top of Arthur's Seat, where they played drums all night until the morning in May Day, and everybody went down bleary-eyed. Treasa's going to sing a song now.
An fiddle an San Bobo na Bialtina Forme an Lagansha o Ethne Neolacon and Ariash This song I got from Ethne Neolacon, rest in peace, and an Tanamatire Bobo na Bialtina. Sound of wind and on an eagle Agamar fein and sourling O valya kabaya kanamaya nikshin Es agamar fein and sourling Babo na biaw and a machina and tauri So es kapten up the she's Aline Mashaka Banya Glesta Hummer Fame and Sour Wing Lonely Greya Hummer Fame and Sour Vanya Banya Ichin Is Hummer Fame and Sour Shogeg Shem is the blue soon as Spera of his Kaloha is Florn Don Book is lately Shannon the pleasure of Murfane Sour Queen and only Glegal of Murfane and Sour Yadigan Geran, Erinana Halia, Yadigan Courage, the Millerke Shoka is Nicole make Beku, up my fame, and sourly, nobody greater, up my fame, and sourly.
Oh!
It's not entirely relevant, but I'm just going to tell you a little bit about drumming in pagan culture. It's not unusual. The properties of drumming and repetitive rhythms are known pretty much all over the world, pretty much throughout all of history. Oh, thanks, Seamus.
It's only water.
I was once dragged out to a rave by a friend of mine by the name of Phil Dempsey, who got really fed up with me giving out about culture I knew nothing about, and insisted that I had to go and try this out with an open mind before he'd allow me to carry on giving out about these youngsters. So I went to the rave. I can't say I particularly enjoyed it, but I did feel like an anthropologist. Because what they were doing is a very ancient rite to go into this trance state. Now, they were using strange substances, as did shamans of old use strange substances and drums. The tradition is that the skin from the animal that you make the drum out of, it retains the spirit of the animal, and when you go into your trance state, it's that animal that comes along and takes you for a ride into the other world on his back, as it were, the puka or whatever. So now we're going to do another song for you. this is the Helston Ferry dance, and actually, oddly enough, we're doing this song on the right day because I thought it was a May Day thing, but it's not actually. It's usually done on the 8th of May, except where the 8th of May is a Sunday or a Monday, in which case it's done the Saturday before. So we're doing it at the right time. Nobody really knows. It's another one of these pagan rituals that nobody's really sure how old it is or where it came from, but it's a bit of crack anyway. There it is. I don't know what they think they're doing, but they seem to be enjoying themselves. So, Johnny, do you want to give us a G there, Tony?
Give us a G. Since man was first created, his work has been debated. We have celebrated the coming of the May. Allen Tow, Johnny run below, we were up long before the day-o, to welcome in the summer, to welcome in the May-o, for summer is a-coming and the winter's gone away-o. Take the scorn to wear the horn, it was the crest when you were born. Your father's father wore it, and your father wore it too. Allen Tow, jolly rumble-o, we were up long before the day-o, to welcome in the summer, to welcome in the May-o, for summer is a-coming and the winter's gone away-o. Robin Hood and Little John have both gone to the fair-o, and we will to the merry green wood to hunt the buck and hare-o. Allen Tow, jolly rumble-o, we were up long before the day-o, to welcome in the summer, to welcome in the May-o, for summer is a-coming and the winter's gone away-o. What happened to the Spaniards that made so great a boast-o?
They shall eat the feathered goose and we shall eat the roast-o.
Allen Tow, jolly rumble-o, we were up long before the day-o, to welcome in the summer, to welcome in the May-o, for summer is a-coming and the winter's gone away-o. God bless Aunt Mary Moses with all our power and might, oh, and send us peace in Ireland, send peace through day and night, oh. Allen Tow, jolly rumble-o, we were up long before the day-o, to welcome in the summer, to welcome in the May-o, for summer is a-coming and the winter's gone away-o.
Whoa!
Thanks very much. Now, what were those characters?
You win them.
This is the living tradition of the maypole.
The Black Rock.
That's the dancing teacher who ought to teach you how to do it properly.
Well, yes,
I nearly didn't
maybe
live to tell the tale.
Oh, look at my pony.
This is, if anyone recognises it, from the Wicker Man. When the sergeant is going around looking for the missing fellow, he looks into he finds the boys all dancing around the maypole. Sorry, Dermot. The boys are dancing around the maypole, and the girls are all inside the classroom banging on the desks. And he asks the teacher what they're doing, and she replies. He asks her what the significance of the maypole is, and she says, It is the penis in religion such as ours. It symbolises the generative force in nature. So we have a reading here from, this is Sir William Wilde, who's, again, he has a whole book which you could just do nothing but read, but we're reading short extracts. The 2 Dublin maypoles were erected outside the city. One of these stood in the centre of Harold's Cross Green and existed within the memory of some of the present generation. Now, of course, this is his generation. I think this was written in around 1850. The chief maypole of Dublin, however, was erected at the pretty suburban village of Finglas, to the north, to the north of the city, near the Glasnevin Botanic Gardens, a spot which combines the most delicious sylvan scenery with the charm of the associations connected with the names of Swift Addison, Tickle Delaney, and in our own day of our distinguished fellow citizen Dr. Walsh. Here it stood until within the last few years, a very tall, smooth pole like the mast of a vessel, and upon every Easter Monday it was painted white and encircled with a red and blue spiral stripe like a barber's pole. In latter years, at least, it was not decorated with floral hoops and garlands like the usual English maypole, but was well soaped from top to bottom in order to render it the more difficult to climb, and to its top were attached in succession the different prizes, consisting generally of a pair of leather breeches, a hat, or an old pinchbeck watch. Whoever climbed the pole and touched the prize became its possessor. All Dublin turned out to Finglas upon May Day to witness the sports and revels. The streets of the little village and the adjoining roads were thronged with carriages, hackney cars and jingles and noddies filled with the better class of citizens. There were also a gaudily dressed king and queen of the May chosen from among the villagers, but they were the least attractive portion of the assembly. The revels consisted of climbing the pole, running after a pig with a shaved and well-soaped tail, which was let loose in the middle of the throng, grinning through horse collars for tobacco, leaping and running in sacks, foot races for men and women, dancing reels, jigs and hornpipes, ass races in which each person rode or drove his neighbour's beast, the last being declared the winner, blindfolded men trying to catch a bell ringer, and also wrestling, hopping and leaping. Some 30 years ago, the Finglas sports were rendered particularly attractive by the exertions of 3 celebrated characters: Watty Cox, the notorious seditious libeller, Brian Maguire, the celebrated journalist, and Michael Farrell, the well-known police officer.
He knows you, isn't it?
So now we're going to play you one of the tunes that they played at these revels. It's called the 1st of May, better known to people nowadays as the Jolly Beggarman.
Oh, right.
Fertility. May is all about fertility. And this is a reading from The White Goddess by Robert Graves. Christmas was merry in the Middle Ages, but May Day was still merrier. It was the time of beribboned maypoles, of holly-ridden cakes and ale, of wreaths and posies, of lovers' gifts, of archery contests, of merry trotters, seesaws, and merry bocks, great vats of milk punch, but particularly of mad merry marriages under the greenwood tree, when the dancers from the green went off hand in hand into the greenwood and built themselves little love bowers and listened hopefully for the merry nightingale. Mad merry is another popular spelling of Maid Marian. Many of these greenwood marriages, blessed by the renegade friar styled Friar Tuck, were afterwards formally confirmed in the church porch. But very often merry begots were repudiated by their fathers. It is probably because each year, by old custom, the tallest and toughest village lad was chosen to be Little John, or Jenkin, Robin's deputy in the Merry Men Masque, that Johnson, Jackson, and Jenkinson are now among the commonest English names. Little John's merry begots. But Robin did as merrily with Robson, Hobson, Dobson, all short for Robin, Robinson, Hodson, Hudson, and Hood. Greenwood and Merryman were of doubtful paternity. The Christmas merrymaker, Sir James Fraser mentions in The Golden Bough, also produced its crop of children. Who knows how many of the Morrises and Morrisons derived their patronymics from the amorous Morris men, Marians, Merryweathers, or how many princes, lords, and kings from the Christmas king or prince or lord of misrule. This is I think the copyrights ran out on this. I think we're safe. This is a photograph of the kids lining up for the Christian crowning of the May, the Queen of the May. It's 1886. Coincidentally, the same year as the Haymarket riots. It wasn't by design. It just happened to be the year that it was taken. Tracy Twyman, author, has this to say about it. May Day is celebrated by the Catholic Church as a day of May devotions to the Blessed Mary. They call her the Queen of the May and celebrate her crowning as the Queen of Heaven on that day. But according to Sir James Fraser, again, he has a lot to say about these things, and so many others, it is Diana whose wedding, the King of the Wood, is celebrated on the more traditional pagan May Day celebrations, with mock wedding ceremonies and a variety of fertility rituals, which we won't go into here. These May Day rituals sometimes included the performance of plays about Robin Hood, an incarnation of the King of the Wood, aka the Green Man, and his marriage to Maid Marian, or his other incarnation, of course, is Robin Goodfellow. So we're going to play another couple of tunes now that they're both called May Day, well, I'm sure they were often played at these revels. Okay. just to say that, as I mentioned before, the pagan religion was all very much tied in with nature, and all the rituals to take their cue from the nature. Whatever the natural world is doing, it's time for humans to mimic and do. So to live well as a pagan, you have to be closely tied into the forces of nature. Do you want the microphone?
That's all right.
Shoot.
The Song of Mhurchú.
You need a microphone.
Just pull that up.
May, fair aspect in perfect season. Blackbirds sing when the sun glows. The hardy cuckoo calls. A welcome to noble summer ends the bitter storms that strip the trees of wood. Summer cuts the streams. Swift horses seek water. The heather grows tall. Fair foliage flourishes. The hawthorn spreads. Smooth flows the ocean. Summer causing it to sleep. Blossom covers the world. Bees, despite their size, blossoms reap, carry honey aplenty on their feet, cattle range the mountainside. Music of the wood is heard, a melody of perfect peace. Dust blows out of the house, and mist from the lakeside. Birds settle in flocks on the land where a woman walks singing. In every field is the sound of bright water rippling. Fierce ardour of horsemen, hosts gathering everywhere. The common-side irises are gilded by the sun. The true man sings gladly in the bright day, sings loudly in May, fair aspect of the season.
Introduce another old tradition. We have a picture of the May bush. I'm not quite sure who those people are, but this would be the more traditional thing, where a lot of people would go out and tie bits of. So I'm not used to this microphone thing. A lot of people go out and tie bits of silk and eggshells to bushes outside their houses, and this is done quite widely all over the country, but most particularly in the west. This is our own little May bush. This is a hawthorn. Now, some people might think it's unlucky, but if you do it in the right way, it's okay to bring a hawthorn bush in to show you. This is.
Your tradition agus symbol ago la baltana atá mi has an noswood agus clachtan na nini an nos tinti baltana agus an skach yal an skach mara ekmu the jaws are good. As vini dini fado vi should have went to school a june leis an nádor agus a dimpelach agus unidish kelura in a shesur valley exula agus chamáile sin bhí ólas áitiúla chuir aber mis livene agus bláhanna agus scacha agus tubair agus mar sin de a bhí ina gentar féin. There are many traditions associated with May Day, such as the May bush, you see here, and the gathering of fresh flowers in the countryside to decorate it. People long ago were much more in tune with nature, and they expressed their gratitude to nature by marking and celebrating the upcoming seasons. Bhí nótúireach dá ribh lá beltaine, páistí a chur amach ag bailú bláhanna buí do gná, bláhanna frisáilte. They sent the children out to collect flowers, as we see here, and the flowers were usually yellow in colour, primroses, cowslip, buttercups, Mhurchú, marigolds. And they had to be picked the evening before dusk or before dawn. A chaidí se bheith pici ribh nachchorach warchadas an lá ribh lá beltaine nó a bheala an lé lá beltaine. Now, chrochadís an áde nó chrobhí nó fósa is just a tach háirseach a doris idrisúr agus scapadí sin na cusáiniad agus in chéadisce ón tabhar an lá, mar bhí sé sin an arms agus ra a thuirt a winter in tí. Now, bhí pisróga a bhaint leis an scachial freisin I déir ná chóirí thuirteach I deach mar hampla. Ach sin tradiisiún a bhain le cantrachaí áirithe seachas I chéile. Nis jarthaí an scach seo sa bhort. Scach gal a bhí cotinte de hátarn, agus chuirtí sa talabhaid ó scórin tí. Agus chrétí mar dómheith go dúrchan scach seo agus rád a winter tí. Agus dhéantí wasú le bláhanna, agus ribíní, agus ivicha a bhí sábháilte on gáisc. The May bush was cut down and stuck in the ground outside the house, and it was decorated with wildflowers, eggshells that were saved from Easter, and ribbons, and they would then dance around it. And this was a custom of pagan origin to celebrate wisdom and other attributes, and indeed to bring good luck. Now, last the tintin about an even a good chamai, mar chud de éile Celtic, agus chótí branchi as scacha éagsúla mar hempel, de chréthe áirithe nos guis, wisdom, agus dinge bháilteacht chamáile beidir bóna persanta. Nis léthe mé dáin a scríomh léam ó muile, hagraíonn de chud in a nósbhuireachtaí a talúte agam. Seo dáíon deas agus an gear agus tá sé socha ag fáiltú ribh éile na beltaine a té se mar seo. Cad é mar gilendar omláin a chud an clampar buí an aitin faoi blá beltaine. Sin a rís rómiad sna sála chéile. Folta na mid a bhuire, sciirtí den scach geall dhiscréadach. Ach jo siad go dóite in ochtaí, chleas a sléifte sa níorthar. Díreach an talam a géalamh tíarnas, ceart chéadaíthe na híise.
I'm going to sing a song now. It's in the English tradition. I'll try and sing it as they would. The Cambridgeshire May Carol, and we're going to play the tune twice, everybody. First, and then we sing the tune together.
Arise, arise, you pretty fair And all that I need is a little of your gold to line it well within. When the clock strikes 1, it's time we are gone. I can no longer stay. So please do remember our money, money box, and we wish you a joyful May.
It's actually several pages long, but we've cut it down just to give you an idea. This was written by Oscar Wilde's daddy, Sir William.
Yeah, this is written by William Wilder, Sir Oscar Wilde, Oscar's father, and it mentions an area in Dublin that I know very well because I went to school there, Weaver Square off Cork Street. It mentions the knackers. If anyone knew Keith's the knackers, you'd never forget the smell. So anyway, here it goes. The preparation commenced about the middle of April, and rivalry was incited, particularly between the Liberty boys of the south and the Ormond boys on the north side of the river, as to which would exhibit the handsomest May bush, or could boast the largest and hottest bonfire. For weeks before, a parcel of idle scamps, male and female, devoted themselves to the task of going from house to house, sometimes escorted by itinerant musicians, soliciting handkerchiefs, ribbons, pieces of gaudy silk to adorn the May bush, turf, coal, old bones, particularly slugs of cows' horns from the tan yards and horses' heads from the knacker's yard, were also collected. The ignitable materials were formed in depots in backyards and cellars, and sorties were made by opposing factions to gain possession of these hoards. The great fire was at the lower end of the Coombe. The weavers had their fire in Weaver Square, the hatters and pipe makers in the upper end of James Street. On the north side, the best fire blazed in Smithfield, as it does on Sundays. A vast crowd was collected, whiskey was distributed galore. The best singers in the crowd lilted The Night Before Larry Was Stretched, or The Baiting of Lord Altham's Bull, or another local song of triumph over the Ormond boys, one of which verse I remember. I don't know the verse, I'll just say it. Begone, ye cowardly scoundrels, do you remember the day that just came down to Newmarket and stole our sweet May bush away?
Here's another tradition for you. The Padstow May Parade, Black Horse at Padstow. Another one nobody quite knows where it came from. There's an awful lot of scholars trying to figure out the origins of this festival, but we have our own theory about it. This here is an illustration from a book by Kevin Danaher called The Year in Ireland. And it says this: supernatural beings were more than usually active about May Day, and the appearance of a travelling band of fairies, of a mermaid, a puka, or a headless coach might indeed cause unease or alarm, but certainly would occasion no surprise, as such manifestations were only to be expected at this time. The Earl of Desmond, a notable wizard in his day, is seen on May morning in full armour rising from the waters of Loch Gower in County Limerick to gallop his silver-shod horse about the lake. O'Donoghue of the Glens, in similar array, rides over the lakes of Killarney. In County Wicklow, the Motty Stone, a great boulder, leaves its hilltop and comes down to drink the meeting of the waters, while rocks off the coast, such as the Fastnet, shake loose their bonds and sail at will about the sea. So here's our theory. That these black horses riding out of lakes were common enough in Ireland, and the manifestations of pukas. So one of them obviously wandered a bit too far and ended up in Padstow, where he was adopted by the English, like so many Irish before and since. But his cousin is still around here somewhere. We're going to give him a shout now. See if he'll come in. Och, och!
We are!
Och, och!
We are!
Och, och!
We are!
move into modern times now, and now you're going to tell you a bit about you. Want the microphone?
I don't think so, but if you can't hear me, I'll use the microphone. The question arises: at what stage, how did this exuberant pagan festival of frolics and festivity and fertility evolve into an international holiday honoring the labor movement? And when did the green, for fresh grass and new life, give way to the red, the struggle for workers' rights? Do I need the mic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
So it seems that over the centuries, the customs associated with May Day changed. They got a little more practical. But the meaning didn't. The purpose was still about fresh starts, new beginnings, and hope. For instance, in England, in parts of England in the 18th century, May 1st became a day for hiring fairs. And the servants in the big houses would bundle up their belongings and go off, and they were called pack rag days. And they were hoping, no doubt, for more agreeable work and possibly more agreeable masters, if possible. And the Dutch had exactly the same custom on the same day in Holland. So it's a debate as to which, whether it was the Dutch or the English, who brought this practice of seeing May Day as a time for change to North America, where it transformed into moving day. And in all the major cities in the United States, May 1st was moving day. In Chicago and New York, it was by law. The tenants would give their notice a couple of months in advance, or they would be given notice a couple of months in advance, find a new place, and on the May 1st, they had to get the horse, the cart, and all their worldly goods would be up on the back while they moved house. So it was a day of general upheaval. And also, employers were used to the fact that the workers might have to take a couple hours off work to move their belongings. And that is exactly why, in 1886, the trade union movement in America decided May 1st, 1886 would be a very good day to have an all-out strike. The all-out strike was in demand of the one single thing all workers wanted more than anything else. The pay was very poor, the conditions were atrocious, but what most people wanted more than anything was an end to the 60-hour work week, which meant that you worked 10 hours a day from Monday through Saturday, or 12 hours a day, Monday through Friday. This was not a new campaign. This has been going on for decades. And in fact, the very first march, public march, was led by a son of an Irish immigrant. His name was Peter Maguire, and he founded the Carpenters Union in New York. And on September 5th, 1882, he led 20,000 workers down Broadway, calling for the 8-hour day. But on May 1st, 1886, 500,000 workers marched in every city across America and Canada. And they had a song. It was an anthem. It was the anthem of the time. And the words were like this. That isn't it. That's it. Okay. We mean to make things over. We are tired of toil for naught. With but bare enough to live upon and there enough for thought. We want to feel the sunshine. We want to smell the flowers. We're sure that God has willed it and we mean to have 8 hours. We're summoning our forces from shipyard, shop and mill. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for what we will. Woo. This May Day was a fantastic success. It was peaceful demonstrations everywhere. And what's more, many employers capitulated. In Chicago, the largest single march took place in Chicago, 90,000 people. The meatpacking industry, which was enormous in Chicago, gave 35,000 workers a 8-hour day immediately, and also said we won't dock yet anything that's going on strike on Saturday. However, not all employers behaved the same way. On Monday morning, the workers in the McCormick Harvest Machine Company, who had gone on strike on Saturday, turned up for work and found they were locked out, and strike breakers had been brought in. There was an inevitable confrontation. What the newspaper called scuffles broke out, and the police were called in. And they came with clubs and with guns. And there were a mighty battering took place for many people, and 4 were killed. Now, it also happened that Chicago was the head of the International Working People's Association, which was the syndicalist wing of the anarchist movement. And the leaders of the IWPA called for a rally on Tuesday night in Haymarket Square, which was a farmer's market by day, but at night would be deserted. Now, it was a chilly night on May 4th and rainy, and not anything like the crowd they expected turned up. They got about 2,000, which is probably a mercy. The meeting went well, the speaker spoke, everyone was fine, until the police arrived and decided they would disperse the crowd. And when that happened, someone threw a bomb. And no one has ever been able to find out who, although there are many theories. And the riot that ensued, the police opened fire, was an absolute mayday. And at the end of it, many, many people were injured, and 11 were dead, 7 of them policemen, There's a lot of evidence that more people were injured and killed by bullets than by the bomb, but that didn't make any difference to the outcome. The Haymarket riot was a disaster for the 8-hour-day movement. The politicians and the business community and the newspapers all blamed, shouted, foreigners, foreign agitators. This is really rich in a city like Chicago, where half the population at the time were immigrants. And of course, the people they blamed most were the trade unions for inciting violence. Hundreds of people were detained, brought into the police, interrogated, beaten while interrogated. And in the end, the unions lost thousands of members. And they arrested 8 members of the IWPA, 8 leaders. They charged them. And on November 11th, 1887, 4 of them were hanged. Albert Parsons, Adolf Fischer, George Ingalls, and August Clive. Now, it was a terrible time, but the international trade union movement did not lie down and die. 8 months later, in the spring of 1888, the American Federation of Labor targeted May 1st, 1890, 2 years on. They said, we want an international march. We want international demonstrations back on the streets calling for the 8-hour day. The following year in Paris, the founding of the Second International, this call was endorsed, and furthermore, there was a declaration made that there should be an international working class holiday on the 1st of May, and that the symbol for workers everywhere should be the red flag, because of those, to commemorate those who were killed fighting for workers' rights, whose hearts blood died for their cause. So, on May 1st, 1890, all over America, all over Europe, the trade unions came out, the workers marched, they sang their song, and they also did it in Chile and in Peru. This was a great success. The following year, May Day fell on a Friday, 1891. And this year they all marched again, and they were joined by the Brazilians, by the Australians, by the Russians, and by the Irish. Because on Sunday, May 3rd, 10,000 workers met in the Phoenix Park and demanded the 8-hour day. So gradually, we got the 8-hour day. And gradually, most countries did make May 1st a holiday for workers, not the United States of America. Although you'll be glad to hear that the government of Illinois, 6 years after the execution, gave a posthumous pardon to those who had been executed and said that the trial was a fraud.
That's all right.
That's all right. However, the American government really did not want to go near anything with such left-wing political associations. So what they did instead was they created a holiday called Labor Day, a workers' holiday, on the first Monday in September, in honor of Peter Maguire, who led the workers of Broadway in 1882. Now, despite all that, the American labor movement has a very, very courageous tradition and a long record in terribly adversarial situations. And they also have many great songs, and none better to sing than Jimmy Jordan and Ann.
I was asked by Máire and Nóra to sing a few songs, a couple of songs. The first one I'm going to sing, and I'm singing it because I think at this time, when the labour movement in this country is facing such severe threats, not only from the employers, but from parts of the media, the courts, and indeed the state, where the gains that we've made over a long, long period of time are being slowly but surely rolled back. And they're pushing us to the edge, and they're continuing to push us to the edge. They want us out of all decision-making roles, anything to do with the rights of labour. And the song I'm going to sing is about a strike which took place in the state of Colorado, and it was in 1914.